Hive Primus is a vast city, its peaks stretching far into the sky. However, beneath lies the Underhive. Distant is the opulence in which the nobility live. Cycles take their toll, and the life amongst the house gangs is the only way out for the headstrong, enterprising, and foolish alike. Commerce makes the hive go round, and when opportunity presents itself, there are no shortage of those willing to seize upon it. Hive-bound disasters are not rare and present such opportunities. When cold trade freight runner Alpha 72 is shot from the sky, it plummets, colliding with the ground in the deep wastes. It unearths an archaic section of the Hive Warrens, a land of opportunity indeed. Quick as ever to capitalise, prospectors flock to the location, hoping to claim whatever riches can be found, and soon stories of the most sought after of minerals filters back to Primus. Ghast. Ghast which lines the coffers of the lowliest to the highest alike, even the mighty Helmoir. With riches to be found, merchants begin to contract gangs to mount and guard expeditions. Amongst the stagnant ruins of mankind's millennia-old arcologies, fortunes can be won by those brave and skilled enough. Otherwise, only death awaits. Welcome to everyone, and this is going to be the video of running down the next campaign that will be on the channel for Necromunda, the Ghastly Prospects campaign. Now, you've heard a little bit of the fluff of the campaign before, and we're going to be running through the prospecting for Ghast as contracted by the Ishem Pathsi Corporation. And they're going to be contracting all the house gangs to go and get Ghast for their business. So I've got my local group, and this video is going to be running down the rules of the campaign in a format that they can hopefully take something away from and learn the format of the campaign, and you guys watching can understand the campaign and hopefully take something away for yourself, because this is something that I've written, but in the spirit of Necromunda being almost a semi-RPG, I have stolen things from other people's supplements, I've added to it, and hopefully come out with a good campaign pack, and hopefully you guys can steal stuff from my campaign pack and go forward with it. So I'd really like to know how you guys find the campaign if you do play it. Also, what ideas you have just from hearing about it. So let me know below or shoot me a private message, either way. So the basics of the campaign is that we'll be playing it on a 2-week cycle. I'm going to introduce mechanics to stem the absolute massive influx of credits that gangs get in base Necromunda, especially the Dominion campaign, because we seem to prefer a more toned down campaign where you're scratching for creds. When you afford a good weapon, it's really impactful. You've really succeeded something by affording something. And hopefully that will contain the balance of the campaign as well, by preventing gangs getting so rich they just dominate by being so rich. We're going to do that in a few ways, and that is by starting with a racket, and which we'll go into later at the appropriate section. I'm going to introduce Ghast prospecting as an outer game mechanic based on the old Mordheim system, and that will play into how gangs are constructed, which we'll go into. And then on table, we'll have prospecting for Ghast, which will be like finding Weirdstone or loot caskets in other games. We're going to be running with the Goonhammer trading post, because that will then feel like certain items are very rare. A basic ganger normally can't take a weapon that isn't on their list. They can't buy from the trading post, but we're going to allow, because of that, how Goonhammer recommends, to allow gangers that are allowed basic weapons to be allowed any basic weapon. And we'll get into that further. We're going to have 3 objectives for the campaign, and that's going to be the most Ghast sold back to the contractors, the highest rep of any gang, and the gang with the most successful pit fighter. And we'll get into that later. So we'll start with how gangs are selected. And I'm going to start here rather than with pit fights, but I'm going to do that at the end, because that's more an arbitrator mechanic of wanting to give an impactful session 0 to have an in-person meetup to explain these rules. So we're going to choose the gang. You'll start with 1,000 credits minus what you spent on your pit fighters' weapons. At this point, you may equip equipment from your house lists. So you're going to select any gang or house. So to actually select your gang, we're not going to use the standard selection methods of half your gang must be gangers and the rest can be champions. What we're going to do is go with more a Mordheim style system, and that'll tie into the prospecting, of you can have one leader, you can then have up to 2 champions and 2 Jews, which is like the young bloods of Mordheim. So in this, we're going to have 2 Jews and they'll tie in for exploration and prospecting. So the champions, you can have 1 to 2 of the standard champion type, which is like, say, an Orlok Road Sergeant, and up to 1, so 0 to 1, of your house special champion, such as Arms Masters, Stimmers, Death Maidens. So that overall gives you your up to 2 champions. I'd recommend taking both of those champions, whichever combination you want, because you want your full allocation of Jews and champions and leader for exploration. Cordal gangs may have 2 of either type of champion, and that's to allow the flavorful sort of redemptionist or Cordal gangs, because theirs isn't really a specialist champion, it's more just a theme champion. Juves, I wanted to give them a bit more focus in this campaign. The original thing for Necromunda 17 was that Juves were champions in the making, and I think with how almost rubbish they are, they become just disposable bods. So I wanted to put a bit more focus on them in the exploration, so that's why we've got 0 to 2 Juves. If you don't have a Juve entry, like say Gene Stealer cults or Enforcers don't have an option to actually buy, we've got round that by your 0 to 2 Juves in Gene Stealer cults will be abhorrence, and your 0 to 2 Juves in Enforcers and Badzone Enforcers, I suppose. Enforcers can buy a Rookie Patrolman for 45 credits, and Badzone Enforcers can designate 2 of the scum that they can buy to the Juve slot. Any fresh from the Academy Jews from the Enforcers don't count towards this Juve allocation. You won't get exploration for them. And any scum that you buy over this limit for Badzone Enforcers won't count towards that. So you have to designate 2 scum. And if you lose those Juves, you can buy them again, but you'll have to buy them separately from scum or Rookie Patrolman that you already have. So then we've put the limit of 0 to 2 prospects at any one time. They can just be rebought freely. And that's just to give more focus to the Juves again. I think the prospects can get absolutely out of control. So for this particular campaign, I've limited it to 0 to 2. Hangers-on which give you credits can be bought, and they can be bought at outset, or skills which increase the amount of credits that you get. Do this once a cycle, not after every game, and we'll get into that when we get to the how you acquire creds, or how you're given creds in a later section. So the trading post, we're going to use the Goonhammer trading post, which is linked in the campaign pack. That will be divvied up just however the campaign tyrant sees fit. I'm going to be randomizing because it's the best way, or most obvious way. As I said before, any ganger or any member of your gang can equip from any weapon from the same section as they normally have access to. So a ganger with access to basic weapons can take all the basic weapons. A Juve with access to pistols can take all the pistols, regardless of if they've got the hand flamer web pistol on their list. Now, you won't have access to your house equipment lists for the campaign. You're only on the trading post once the campaign has started. So if you buy a new fighter, they can't be equipped from the gang list. They've got to be equipped from the trading post. And to give everyone something to be able to start with, if there's nothing useful in the trading post every week, stub guns are 5 credits, fighting knives are 10 credits, auto guns are 15 credits, and mauls are 5 credits. And that's just because they're such basic weapons. They're always available, regardless of if they pop up on the trading post. So hangers-on war gear, which change an item to common, will work as normal. They will become common for you to just buy any cycle. except in the case of Ghast. Now, Ghast is a core campaign mechanic for this campaign. You're actually there to prospect for Ghast, so it doesn't make sense if your guys can just buy some Ghast from the trading post and sell it on. No, you're going to have to get that Ghast from prospecting. Rackets, we've got quite a few rackets, and they'll be selected on session 0, which is for us the pit fight, or just if you're running a campaign at home, just organise divvying them up before the campaign starts. It's quite simple. Everyone gets one, and at current time, that won't change. You don't take it off anyone while you're playing. Roll priority in some way of when you're going to choose them. And as an arbitrator, if you want to mix it up, you can start throwing in mechanics for changing about settlements or them being taken off people. I really recommend that if it gets stagnant, people really don't like their territories, or it just makes sense narratively. So I've got the settlement protection, and that's in for people like enforcers or whoever like takes over the town to start with. We've got Corpse Guild Bond, we've got Peddlers of Forbidden Law, Blood Pits, Gambling Empire, Whisper Brokers, Narco Distribution, and Outhive Smuggling. So all of those I've slightly changed to fit the campaign better from their original racket. Try and use these unless you see a glaring problem with them if you're playing at home, and let us know how you think they are. I've tried to balance them based on them being every 2 weeks. So yeah, a few highlights within the list is the Gambling Empire, which allows you to draw a card, and this is similar to the racket in the Book of Judgment. And if you gain the right card, you gain credits. If you get the wrong card, everyone else in the campaign gets credits and you get none. And it stretches to being able to re-roll a lasting injury result, or getting Outhive Smuggling routes, so being able to have a random chance of being able to gain one item from your gang list, and that'll be once a cycle. Now on to Ghast prospecting in the market. So Ghast will be obtained in 2 ways. One through Delving the Depth prospecting out of game, and one in game. So in game, there will be Ghast markers placed about the table, which can be picked up just by moving over them, and then your fighter will carry it. If they're taken out of action or seriously injured, they drop the Ghast where they are. If they were taken out by someone in combat, that other person gets the Ghast automatically. And if they recover from serious injury within 1 inch of the Ghast that they dropped, they automatically pick it up. Now you can snaffle down that Ghast and gain psychic powers, of which I've done a psychic powers video. If you aren't too up to speed on psychic powers, that was made to tie in with this campaign. I've changed the maintain control mechanic to being a free action at the start of the turn, and you must pass a willpower test at +1. And that's just to allow more actions to take place if you take Ghast or use a psychic power that needs to maintain control. In game, that will mean you can win a scenario by not actually completing the objectives of the mission. That can be just you get the most Ghast and then leg it and leave the actual mission to the other person and feel like you've won as well. So I think it's quite a good mechanic to have these multiple ways of feeling like you've won. Now, on the scenario side of things, you're not just limited in this campaign to going into the depth and searching out Ghast. There's also the option to do gang raids on other people's hideouts, on merchant shops, raiding convoys that are carrying Ghast, because there'll be a whole infrastructure for your gangs to exploit in criminal ways in order to get control of this Ghast. So there are options beyond just like dungeon exploration, and I think that's going to feature heavily in the campaign that I'll be running, as much as Delving the Depth of the Badzones. Out of game, you'll also be gaining Ghast by prospecting. Prospecting is similar to the Mordheim mechanic, where you roll for exploration. And at the end of the game, you roll a dice for your leader, Juves, and champions who survived the game and didn't gain a permanent injury result. So if you didn't go out of action, or if you rolled just miss a game or full recovery, So anyone losing an arm or a leg is 2 injured for this. And it's about a 50-50 chance. That's what I worked it off. If you survived and are able to prospect, you roll a dice, and you for each leader, champion, and juve, and you add all the results together. And then there's a table that comes out with 12 to 17 results, say being 3 units of Ghast found. And that'll mean that there is an incentive to leave the game while you can still gain Ghast from the post-game experience. And that's so that we don't get this thing where people fight till the end in this one battle and then they're out of the campaign entirely. Because I find that does stall campaigns, is someone just makes a bad decision in game by staying too long and then they're out, they've got no chance, they lose interest. And if it happens to a couple of people, that can be the end of a campaign. So I've tried to solve it by giving more incentives to be smart about when you choose to go. Because you can still gain a better result, as we found in Mordheim that we've been playing around here. You can gain a better result than someone that won the scenario by having your leaders, champions, and juves left to gain those prospecting results. So how much do you actually get for Ghast? Why do you want to get Ghast? So Ghast will have a market value at all times, and this will be a constant. I'll be putting it in the Discord that we have, and it starts at 8 credits, and every time you play there will be a terminal on the table. I stole this from the Eye of Horrors podcast, so big shout out to those guys. Goonhammer, you've already got one for the trading post. So Ghast will have a market value, and they did it with Zootech coins. They will be a terminal on the table, and if you reach it, you'll have to pass an intelligence test, and there's rules for deployment of it, but you'll have to pass an intelligence check at -2. If you succeed with your intelligence dump stat, so it's possibly no longer a dump stat, you can choose to alter the value of Ghast, and that can go well or it can go badly. So you declare whether you want it to go up or down and roll. So on the table you have moves 1 in the opposite direction to the direction declared, no distant difference to the market price, moves 1 in the direction declared, moves 2 in the direction declared, and 2 in the opposite direction. So if you'd wanted to increase the value and it started at 8 and you rolled moves 1 in the direction declared, it goes to 9. If you wanted to decrease the value and it moves 1 in the opposite direction, it increases. So you don't always get the result you want. It is a bit random. Now, at the end of every cycle, the campaign tyrant will roll what the wider market does with the Ghast value. And this is to give arbitrators a way of making Ghast relevant again if it's plummeted, can rein it in if it's been sold for too many credits, and it just gives a bit of control and a bit of normalization to what could be a wild mechanic. Now, either way, once a single intelligence check has been made at the terminal, it will lock and allow no further usage. So you could actually put multiple terminals on the table, but we're going to start with 1. So it's going to be a bit of a fight to get to that 1. Furthermore, any close combat attack or ranged attack, including stray shots, which happen to the terminal, will put it out of action, and that's just to represent the terminal just shutting down. Now, any creds that you choose to sell the Ghast for, you can do it immediately, and that will just be straight income at that point. And how else do you get income in this campaign? Every cycle, the arbitrator will give all the gangs an amount of credits, and that can be done as a flat rate to all the gangs, or the arbitrator can choose to give more credits to some people, and that's to represent the houses sending resources to your gangs to continue prospecting for Ghast. I then put in an upkeep table that is similar to the Mordheim or old Necromunda upkeep tables, except instead of being on warband members or gang members, it's now on gang rating against income. So if I gave 230 credits to 1,000 rating gang, it comes out at 95. And that's topped up by your Ghast sales, but you won't be getting the straight amount that is said each week. You'll have to wash that through your gang rating. And it's fairly simple. We've done it a million times in Mordheim and old Necromunda, And just remember that Ghast sales do not go through that table. But all of your skills like Fixer, an Orlock Prize Fighter, all of that will be washed through this upkeep table. And that's to represent upkeep of ammunition costs, upkeep in vehicles, supply chains, and things like that, like day-to-day items, getting Lemon Pledge and stuff like that. That's the actual end of the players section of the campaign pack in main. And what I'm going to do is have a session 0. So session 0 is just to go through this, get any glitches out, and this session 0 will be held before the gangs are actually created, or before people select who is in their gang. And session 0 will include pit fights, which are going to be on the channel. So what you'll do here, and I stole this from Eye of Horus and added my own things to it, changed some things. What we'll do is we'll have a pit fight. You'll equip a pit fighter with weapons from your house list and pay for them from your starting 1,000 credits. Now, the actual pit fighter, you'll get a free pit fighter for the profile. And you'll pick that from the 4 Venator champion profiles, and it's listed on the pit fighter page. And you want to select that based on either your role playing or who you think can be most mental. Like, it's entirely up to you. These are gained from a Lannister or a Hyper Lannister, I suppose, and given to your gang. And this will be giving interest to session 0, as well as being able to be fought. Like, you'll be able to fight pit fights all through the campaign, because we'll have a most successful pit fighter award. So at multiple points through the campaign, we'll have pit fights. So fighters are equipped initially with any weapon in your list: a leader, champion, house-specific champion, Juve, Ganger, or prospect, so everyone can take. However, you must still meet the rules of the pit fighting arena you are fighting in. They can also take any additional upgrades, such as third arms for gene stealer cults. We're on the absolute edges of society here. Gene smithing for Goliaths, toxins, big names for Orlocks, things like that. Each pit fighter starts with 1 skill from any main skill list, like combat, brawn, and that's to allow your pit fighter, if you play a shooting gang, to gain a combat skill. So the rules of the Frontier Arena is that only close combat weapons are allowed, no web gauntlets, no corpse grinder masks, no icrotic slime, no xeno, cursed, or tainted weapons. The fearsome skill has no effect. You guys are really psyched up for this. They're not going to get scared of someone in this, or given loads of combat drugs, I suppose. And no psychic powers. This is a classy establishment. I mean, there's third arms, but no psychic powers. So the game rules: you start by choosing 3 tactics cards. The tactics cards are laying face down in front of you, and then each fighter is lowered into the ring 5 inches apart. They're then scattered D3 in a random direction, and then both players make an initiative check. Succeeding means you roll 2d6 for priority, failing means you roll 1d6 for priority. And this is a really good mechanic I think they came up with the Eye of Horus, in that going first is so vital. It needs more rolls in, basically so that someone with a weaker fighter can still survive, or can go first and punk a better fighter. Both players then select a random tactics card for their opponent, and that's used until the end of the round. The player with priority goes first, and then you go first. You play out the round. At the end of the round, the tactics cards are shuffled back into the deck of 3, or the hand of 3, and lain out again. To start the next round, if there's surviving fighters, both players then pick another card for their opponent, and you don't roll priority again. The priority sticks with the person that won it the first time. So you win the pit fight by killing or at least maiming your opponent, or if your opponent is out of the ring at any point. Post-fight, both pit fighters are assumed to be given the best medical care available. If they're not fighting, they're not earning for the gang and they're not gaining reputation. This means any injury results count as out cold, except a death of a fighter. No doctor can heal the critical injury results of the fighter, as their opponent has rent them apart and there isn't time to staunch the bleeding, basically. After this, why do you care about these pit fights? So there are 3 ways that you care, hopefully. The prize purse, There's 50 credits and a special prize for the first place. There's second place is 50 credits, but no special prize. And third place is 20 credits. You also get D3 plus 1 rep for every pit fight that your pit fighter wins that's on a fight night. So you can play a pit fight at any point, but you just don't gain rep for it. It's only when everyone's seeing that you gain rep. You gain no rep for a fight that isn't in a fight night. And I'd suggest 3 fight nights across a campaign if it's 6 weeks, maybe more if it's longer. A pit fighter gains D3 plus 1 experience for taking part in the fight, as well as plus 1 for every skull you roll on the injury dice. You've got to roll the skull. You can't just get it automatically by having a weapon. Is it with Sever? If you have Sever, roll the dice that you would normally, and even if you count the special rule, but still roll dice based on your damage, because then you'll know how many like skulls you get. So finally, and we're going to be doing this as a knockout tournament. If you want to do multiple rounds, it's structure your tournament entirely how you want. We're also going to be doing betting. So your gang gets to keep any credits that they get by gambling with other players. You'll be given 50 credits to bet with at the start of the night. Now, you can do betting between players, and you can also bet with the house, and we'll go over that in a second. If you bet every time, your leader gets plus 1 experience for the experience of knowing to bet or not. If you lost the most credits, the boss clearly didn't keep tabs on the other gangers, and D3 gangers gain plus 1 experience. D3 random gangers gain plus 1 experience. What we're going to do for the in-house betting is I'm going to rank every fighter, and that'll be based on profile, weapon strength, damage, things like that. Then you get the 2 scores that your fighters are worth, and you boil them down so that it's 2 on one side and then whatever comes out on the other. So if I've got a fighter ranked 6 and a fighter ranked 9, the 6 goes to 2 and the 9 goes to, so it then becomes 2 to 5. So the better fighter has the 5, the weaker fighter has the 2. Now you switch those around, and those are your odds. So the worst fighter will now be 5 to 1, and the better fighter will be 2 to 1. Once you have your rankings, every round that you win, you will gain D3 to your ranking. So it randomizes it a little bit. And that just then allows you to bet with the house. If it's hard to find bets with other players, you can always bet with the house. I'm going to print out some actual Necromunda money that is going to be traded with the players based on those scorings. So all my players, I need your house, I need your fighter profiles in as fast as possible. So that is the pit fighting. If your pit fighters actually died, other than being out of the tournament, you'll need to buy another pit fighter by the time the next pit fight comes around. If you don't buy one, you can promote a champion to pit fighter, but your pit fighters can never take part in the campaign. So once you promote a champion to pit fighter, they can't go in any more scenarios. If you don't provide a pit fighter, your gang will lose D6 plus 1 reputation, and a hive scum will be provided for you at the next fight. So that's just to represent you not showing up with a pit fighter. The card's still got to be filled. I also recommend filling out the card a little bit with scum or with whatever profiles, a bit weaker than the players so they've got more chance, but something that's got a bit of danger to it. And that's if you need, I think you need like a minimum of 8 fighters at least to make a good card. And that pit fight will allow you hopefully to get a good session 0. So that's everything that the players actually need to know. The reason you pick your gangs after the pit fights is you gain any money that you might have won, and then that can take you over the 1,000 credits. And yeah, that's all you really need to know as a player to the campaign. There'll be an arbitrators pack that I send out or that I put on the Google Drive. All this pack will be linked in a Google Drive below. And I hope you guys have fun playing it. If you want to ask any questions, ask away. So the scenarios will be up on the drive hopefully before any videos come out, or at least week by week scenarios, as I'll be writing them week by week so that I can respond to campaign events. My players will definitely have them. It just depends on the release schedule of these videos. and there'll be an Arbitrator's, not full pack, but at least some Arbitrator tools that you can introduce, such as house favors or corporation favors. We're going to be playing with the Ishem Patsy Corporation. I hope you guys get where that is from. It should be a good campaign. I'm hoping to run a second campaign after this to take us more out into the Ashwastes. I plan on running a death race at some point, especially my players get your vehicles ready. And yeah, that is the campaign pack. If you liked the video, if you liked the content, click like, comment below and subscribe to the channel. It will mean that I do more sort of this Necromunda content. Maybe not even just the talking, but a kickoff to this campaign, which I hope you guys will enjoy over the coming months. And that is all from me, so I'll see you guys next time.